Good evening. The Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah, Ayin Hein with Bet 75b tells us that there is a mitzvah, for sure by metal, to dip into the mikveh of a vessel that a Jew acquires from a goy. The Yerushalmi explains that every time a vessel, a pot, something used for food made out of metal, clearly in the Torah it says in Parshat Matot, we have to go and dip it in the mikveh when we buy it from a goy. The Yerushalmi says that not just does our bodies need to sometimes go in the mikveh, our vessels also are a big part of our service of Hashem, and they need to be taken from the tumah, the impurity of the goy, put in the mikveh, and to bring it into the holiness of the Jew. The Ritva writes that just like a Jew who wants to convert, for a goy who wants to convert, he has to go in the mikveh, so to the pots. When they come from goyim, you have to dip them in the mikveh to be able for a Jew to be able to use them. The Torah tells us that this mitzvah is mainly, the pasuk says, mainly by metal. However, the Gemara says that this also applies, most poskim hold, the Rabbanan, by glass. So glass is also another material that you have to dip in the mikveh with a bracha. However, it's things made out of bone, things made out of wood, things made out of plastic, do not require any immersion in the mikveh. Now, another part of this halachot that can be found in Siman Kuf Chaf in Shulchan Aruch is that they have to be owned by a Jew. If they're only borrowed from a goy, if it's still a goy, the goy owns it, there is no obligation to dip it in the mikveh. However, sometimes we're going to talk about in the next few days, what do you do when you have expensive items that are electrical? How do you deal with them, dipping them in the mikveh? We're going to talk about that soon. But just for now, there's situations where you could buy items from the store, and then since they're made by Jews, so then they don't require mikveh. Why? Because we said only when you buy it from a goy, that's when you need to dip it in the mikveh. But if it was owned and created by a Jew from the begin with, a Jew took a bunch of metal and he built it into a vessel, he built it into a pot, so there's no requirement for a mikveh because it was owned by a Jew the whole time. There was never a goy involved. So therefore you can have pots and you can have even urns, electrical urns made by companies who are owned by Jews. Even if the Aruch HaShulchan writes, even if the company has goyim as their employees, because the material was owned by a Jew at the time, so therefore it does not require tefillah. And most of the times they put on the box, does not require immersion in the mikveh because it was never owned by a goy. So therefore this is another point halakha, that if it's owned by a Jew, it doesn't even require it to be tefillah. Only when you buy it from a goy, or if you're borrowing from a goy, that's where you also don't need tefillah. But when you buy it from a goy and now you own it, that's where it requires dipping in the mikveh. Yes?
Why don't you need tefillah when you buy it from a goy? I mean, borrowing from a goy.
Because it's not our pot. Only when it's your pot, there's an obligation to dip it. If it's his pot, there's no obligation to dip. What?
It's not.
Right, let's say it was never used, it was a new pot. There's no problem of kashrut there. The only issue is that it's not your pot, so that's why you don't have to dip it, because it's his pot still. There's a nice mashal I heard in regards to sometimes the person can be in the summertime a little bit lazy to do mitzvot. So I heard a nice mashal that always gave me strength how not to overcome our laziness. So there was a contractor who used to build houses for a living. That's what he did, and he got very old and he wanted to retire. So his good friend who gave him a lot of business called him up and said, "Listen, can you build one more project for us? One nice project." He said, "Listen, I want to stop doing this. I want to retire." He said, "Please, I beg of you, one more project. Well, this will be the last one." He said, "Okay, no problem." He took it, like he begged him and he took it. He showed up every day to the work site and he did the project, and he was lazy about it. He didn't really want to do it. This was the last one. He just wanted to get it over with. After they finished the project, after many months, the owner of the project, the guy who called him, his friend, he came to him and he said to him, "I want to give you a gift." He says, "What?" He says, "Here." He puts the keys in his hand. He tells the contractor, "I want you to know, this is your house. I want to give this as a gift to you." And he says, "What? This is my house? If I knew it was going to be my house, I would have came on time, and I would have put more effort, and I wouldn't cut all the corners I cut." So, Rabotai, the mashal is about us. That a lot of times the Kadosh Baruch Hu, He gives us a mitzvah, and He says to us, "You should know, do this mitzvah for me." And after, in the end, when you go to Shamayim, Hashem's going to say, "Here, this is the keys. This is your Olam Haba. You built this. You built this for yourself. This is for you. Go and enjoy what you built." And a person will see his Olam Haba and say, "Oh, if I knew this was for me, how much more I would go, and how much more effort I would put, and how much I would come on time, and I would do a better job." So a person knowing this in advance, now we should put the effort we can now, and not wait till it's too late. Baruch